Hello again. I mentioned yesterday morning that a group of 30 or so people set out to commit a criminal offence on Tuesday night and were very ill equipped to accomplish their purpose. As a result of this, some of them died. A bunch of people set out quite deliberately to breach the 2022 Nationality and Borders Act by entering this country without proper permission. They attempted this in the most foolhardy fashion imaginable, setting off in a small boat in the dark on a freezing night wearing only t-shirts. It has been suggested that I exulted in the subsequent deaths, but that's absurd. When people set out in this way on a criminal enterprise, any misfortune is upon their own heads. I thought, though, that viewers would like to hear about some people who did exult in those deaths. These were not, as one might suppose, mad racists or xenophobes. They were, on the contrary, left-wing types who scented an opportunity to show why there should be open borders and that it was wicked conservatives who were responsible for their deaths because they hadn't let all the world and his brother come to this country freely. In other words, it was not the criminals' fault at all, but that of the British government. Exploiting the deaths for this purpose was a disgusting thing to do. So I thought that we might look at one person who did so yesterday by means of deliberate lies. I'm talking about a teacher from Belfast who has over 160,000 followers on Twitter, which makes him a fairly big player in the Twitter scene. His Twitter name is Tory Fibs, and I give links to his Twitter account in the description to this video, including the tweet in question. The thumbnail to this video shows the image which he uses on Twitter. It seems that this person has a PhD in history, but this has not been enough to stop him setting out on purpose to tell a monstrous lie. At 5 p.m. yesterday, he tweeted as follows: "A 16-year-old child drowned in the English Channel yesterday. He was fleeing war in Sudan and its neighbouring countries. His dinghy began to sink in the English Channel on Tuesday night. Say it out loud. He was not an economic migrant. He was a refugee. R.I.P." This was, of course, all completely untrue, and he had simply made it up. None of those responding challenged him on this lie, and I suppose that he was laughing and thinking that he had got away with it. This tweet was retweeted over 500 times, spreading this dreadful and deliberate falsehood far and wide. The aim of this was to try and summon up sympathy for the group of illegal immigrants who thought that they might slip into this country unnoticed and in defiance of the law. The irony of somebody using the Twitter name Tory Fibs in order to peddle downright left-wing lies in this way has perhaps not escaped those watching the video. As I say, I was accused of glorying in those deaths, which I did not. But here is a left-wing, self-described socialist who does glory in the deaths, to such an extent that he has spread lies about the event in order to make political capital of it. Could it have been an innocent error on his part? Hardly. He pinched the story from newspapers in 2020 when a Sudanese guy who was at first claimed to be 16 drowned as he crossed the channel in the same way. He wasn't actually 16, of course, he was really 28. Here is something which I've noticed time and again, which is that left-wing people always seem to be more dishonest and unpleasant than right-wing ones. This is surprising, as one would imagine that the left-wingers were all affable, pipe-smoking fellows wearing tweed jackets who would always be happy to have a good-natured chat about things. Right-wing types, on the other hand, would be heartless, cold, humourless people with malice in their hearts towards those who are different from them. In fact, of course, it's the left-wing people today who are the angriest and the most determined to prevent any point of view other than their own being heard. Like Tory Fibs, the Irish teacher who broadcast that lie on Twitter yesterday, they tend to lie their heads off and get up to all kinds of vicious tricks, slandering anybody who doesn't agree with their own narrow spectrum of what is seen as acceptable thought and speech. I have no particular love for right-wing fanatics, but if given a choice, I would sooner sit down and break bread with them than I would a bunch of socialists. It is the left wing who represent the greatest threat to free speech and a liberal society in Britain, not the right wing.